All right, after a bit of a wait, we're back into action here. We had to wait for Eternal Fire to finish their matchup in CCT EU number 7, where they were in the Swiss stage, and unfortunately for them, they lost to FabBet, meaning they were eliminated, and they're out of that. But now they can look forward to this one here in CCT number 8 to try and make the Swiss stage in the 1-0 matchup up against Flux. And since we're talking about them, let's start off with the roster of Eternal Fire and discuss which players are playing well lately and which need to pop off in order for them to win. And I would say Beanox is that number one player that you're always looking towards. 1.18 rating over the last 3 months with the squad. They've been playing a ton of Counter-Strike, grinding away. He's got 111 maps under his belt, and that's not even the most. Calix and Amor, 116 apiece, and Jay Rezi a little bit lower because he was dropped from the squad briefly in favor of Mary, and then now he's back. But, you know, I mean, overall, we saw flashes from Beanox over the last 2 BO3s. He played, I think, pretty well on a couple of the maps in that previous series that they just played right before this one. Imor played very well on one, and then the following one didn't have the best of results. So it's like, they need to all click at the same time, right? Imor with the op, Beanox with the rifle. If those two are doing well, then you're winning maps. If one of those two is having an off game, your odds decrease immensely. And obviously you have a really nice supporting cast, I would say, in terms of Calix and Jay Rezi. And when you get contributions from Masked, it's nice too, which they did get in the previous BO3 in CCT number 8 here. But I think, you know, overall it was Dust 2 that Masked was playing really well on. Ended up losing that map because no one else was able to really support his efforts. So it's really interesting. I think against the Troglodytes played really well, but I think Eternal Fire should have played better. And I think that's been the trend lately for them, right? They had a nice little 5-game win streak going on, and then the last 2 have been, I wouldn't say the last 3 have been a little bit rough. And up against Eklot, they lost that one 0-2. Wasn't really close on map number 2, Mirage. And, you know, the FabBet result is something that they'll be disappointed with, especially after picking up Overpass, where Imor did look very good. So, look, there's a lot of positives potential. Like, the ceiling is really high for this roster. It's just that they're not hitting it as often as they need to. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition here and they can make that Swiss stage once more in CCTU number 8. Now let's switch over to Flux. And this is also a team that has made changes to their roster. One in particular, Dougie out, Shield in. And last time they played up against the Y5, they looked really good. And a lot of that was because of how well Shield was playing. It was a clean win, 13-2 on Mirage and 13-5 on Dust 2, and Shield was their best player, if I recall correctly, and I do. He had 35 frags and a 1.72 rating. Behind him was Finnegan at 35 as well, and a 1.54 rating. Still, their ADRs were both 104.2 for Shield and 103.3 for Finnegan. But I think what's more impressive is Shield is doing that with the op. You know, usually you're not the top ADR player when you've got the big green in your hands, but he was that good. It was really nice to watch for a change for Flux to have their opper kind of connecting on all of his shots and being really consistent. Nothing against Dougie, but he was definitely struggling over the last little bit. So I think that piece being added to the roster in his first BO3 with them to put up those types of numbers, that is certainly a promising sign, I would say. And then you look over, as mentioned, looking at the Eternal Fire side, they're struggling to find consistency. And I'm not saying that Flux are just going to wipe the floor with the Eternal Fire, not at all. But I feel like they're potentially on that honeymoon period right now with Shield, and maybe they can come out and start to make noise very quickly. And given that Eternal Fire just had to struggle a pretty rough defeat on Dust 2 as their final map, maybe that'll get carried over. They're a little tired, perhaps, and Flux could have the edge in the series. Anyway, all that being said, let's check out the veto and see what maps we're going to be heading to. And I wonder if Overpass is going to come through for Eternal Fire. The only reason we didn't see in the previous BO3 here in EU number 8, excuse me, anyway, is because it was banned out. They love picking Overpass. 16-7 on the map. They already have a win there today on it. They're looking to get a follow-up up against Fireflux. But before then, Fireflux probably watching what happened in that previous one, saying, oh, rubbing their hands together. Dust 2. How's that sound for you guys? And it makes sense. It's a map that they like to pick as well. Probably nothing to do with the previous BO3 and just really to the fact is Fireflux love to pick it, but still, maybe they did lean into it a little bit more based on that. But yeah, they pick it 71.4% of the time. 3-3 on the map, but I believe they had that win up against Y5, 13-5, and a couple of tough losses against Incilio and Amcal prior to that. But I still feel like, given what we've seen from Eternal Fire lately on Dust 2 versus Fireflux, I think that there's a lot of promise there potentially for Fireflux going into that one. And also, for them to prove that, that win against Wi-Fi wasn't just a fluke, and that Shield is an opera that can make a difference when you're going up against Amor, who's got a lot of firepower on his side. When he's on, he's really on. So that'll be a difficult task for Shield to deal with. Finally, if we need it, we will be heading to Inferno as the last map. And there you might, just because the amount of reps, lean towards Eternal Fire, because it hasn't been that many maps played over the last 3 months for Fireflux, whereas Eternal Fire have played, 2 for Inferno on Fireflux versus Eternal Fire's 20. Yes, they only won 8 of those, but a lot of reps, a lot of practice, OTs, full 24 maps played, full 24 rounds played. It's not too shabby, although, you see one not great losing streak on the side of Eternal Fire. 8 maps in a row they've lost on Inferno. So, it's still a toss-up once we get there, what you expect on a map number 3. But there's a lot of, I want to say, signs that things aren't necessarily trending anymore in that upward trajectory that it felt like it was happening for Eternal Fire. And now you're like, oh, I don't know, the inconsistency is rearing its ugly head. Seems like all players are on the server, guys. Just got a couple more minutes before we jump into the action. But yeah, I would say if you're looking for a lean either way in this one, I would tentatively say Fireflux, but by like 1%, like 51-49, just because Dust 2 has looked so difficult for Eternal Fire over the last little bit, and I feel like Fireflux should be able to instill their will there. But once we get to Overpass, that's a map that, Fireflux doesn't play. It's not even on their map page over the last 3 months. So there's the possibility, yes, of Fireflux having some kind of advantage, but I'm not too sure about that. Anyway, checking out the head-to-head, Vnox already highlighted him. He is the one to watch. He has a very high ceiling and the floor is low too. So I think and they tend to be hit even map to map. Like, he'll be good in one map and then hit the ceiling in one map and then hit the floor in the next. So I think that hopefully there'll be more consistency for him. And on the side of Fireflux, Soulfly actually has been very, very good. 1.1 rating, looking at 85.9 ADR. He's a rifler that has to be accounted for if you're going for any of your executes. Your flashes need to be on point, especially when you're going on your T side in the direction of him. But this time, it'll be CT side for Eternal Fire and Fireflux on the T side as we jump into the action. Map number 1. Eternal Fire looking to bounce back after just suffering a loss only moments ago. Fireflux, on the other hand, they want to make that Swiss stage. Both teams vying for it here, by the way. It's a 1-0 bracket. Who will advance? You have to feel like Eternal Fire will still get there to the Swiss stage. It's just a matter of will it be here or in the next match that they play. Whereas Fireflux are more of an unknown to me. Like, yes, I appreciate what they've been doing, the change they made. But anyway, we'll get into the action. We'll talk about that after. It's going to be Soulfly engaging and losing the battle with Mass, who finds himself a couple. Calyx gets shield, and this is going entirely the way of Eternal Fire. Has the last one. Jay Rezi finds him, and that'll do it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they've got a little bit of fire in them. Both teams have fire in them. Fireflux, Eternal Fire. Either way. Yeah, that's pretty clean. I mean, just tried to... Did Fireflux getting towards that B site and ended up being collapsed upon from CT and just couldn't deal with the numbers that were being sent their way. So, at the very least for Eternal Fire, they will get that pistol round. Fireflux do not force up afterwards, though. We have been seeing force buys in second rounds pretty frequently, but it feels like on T side anyway, that's starting to whittle away. And teams are more often than not, if they don't get the bomb plant, going back to the usual expectation. Lex getting that opener onto Soulfly. Beanox finding Banjo. Yeah, this is all Eternal Fire. Very nicely done. And I mean, good to see Beanox activating here. If you look at the previous map of play here, for Eternal Fire, Beanox did play really well. So he's kind of picking up where he left off. 122 ADR, 21 frags, and 1.66 rating. And they lost 13-5. Like, that is insane numbers, but it goes to prove my point that, you know, Eternal Fire, they have struggles getting all their pieces to activate at the same time. And more, the Opper on Dust 2, total frags 5. That is just not okay. Your Opper needs to be a potent piece around your Star Rifler, and that's what didn't happen for them. Not a single player above a KDR of 1 aside from Beanox. Maybe that'll change for them here. They've had their warm-up game on Dust 2. And, I mean, if Eternal Fire pick up Dust 2, then they've got a huge advantage going on to Overpass where, I mean, that's their home turf. Paz gets the opener. Beanox gone. Fireflux looking to recover after losing the pistol and the eco. And more waits over at ramp with the incendiary in his hands. There it gets tossed. Nade as well. The nade's going to do so much damage, and more manages to get one before he falls. Shield gets the immediate trade, but look at the health bars here on the Fireflux side. Finnegan and Shield down to 40 and 21 HP respectively. So there's still a chance for Eternal Fire to fight back into this one. Jay Rezi moves up. And then, are they calling it off? Feels like it. Yeah, because they didn't see anything. They're just going to call it off. Even though they've got the money, they've got the ability to hunt a little bit and try to find another player and get back into this round. They decide against it. Huh. All right. Fireflux will take the round without requiring all the frags. Eternal Fire see their lead cut in half. Finnegan goes down to the bomb, so that's one reinvestment required. Should be fine on the Fireflux side. Then you look over at Eternal Fire, yeah, he saved 3 guns, so, I mean, this buy-up is guaranteed into this next one, although they still would have had a decent chunk of change, even if they went a little more aggressive there. But that's the key duel. You know, once Immore falls, they can't really find a response, and they just fall off afterwards. Well, Immore's got the op. I mentioned it before, you know, that previous match on Dust 2 was just not the way he was hoping it would go. Did not go the way he was hoping it would go. And now he does get the opener on Banjo. Can't get much worse than it was for him with those 5 frags, so he's hoping for a better result here. Trade goes through, but back and forth we go again. A 3v2 in favor of Eternal Fire. Spacing has been good. Soulfly and Paz, the last 2 standing. Eternal Fire trying to isolate that 1-round victory for Fireflux. Smoke gonna get tossed into the Molotov. Or right beyond it. That's surprising. Thought it would defuse it, but either way, Calyx could get caught off in this position. Needs to be careful. If he pushes too far, Paz gets a freebie, and Fireflux find themselves in a 2v2. But Calyx will rein himself in. At least for now. There we go. Backs off, takes a favorable angle, and wins the fight against Paz, and Mask pushes at a critical time, finding Soulfly and getting an AK upgrade. The AWP not recovered, but I think they can buy it anyway into this round. I imagine they're going to hand it over to Amor. Just waiting to see it. You've got money, Calix. Drop it for your IGL. There's the opener from Amor. Despite the fact that he goes down here, there was a player ready to trade him. So it's not the end of the world. It's just the loss of the op was pretty expensive in this instance. There's the op drop by Calix for Amor. They've still got a very nice buy-up, and I guess they figured, hey, the AKs are better to have than the op because we can't buy those. And we'll just drop Amor the op in the next round, which certainly is a viable line of thinking. Ooh, nice tag by Shield onto Amor with that scout. Again, Shield is quite good, or at least was quite good in his first BO3 that he played with the squad. So we're expecting big things from him, especially if you're going to get a Fireflux win. I mean, the level of competition between Favbet and Fireflux, there's a decent gap between that for Eternal Fire, so perhaps they will benefit from having played against Favbet prior to this. We'll see. There's the two smokes thrown, one for CT, one for left side mid. Soulfly goes up around it. J-Rezi gone. Soulfly getting that opener. Calix only gets one back, but it will be, again, trades good on both sides, down to a 3v3. The problem for Eternal Fire is they've lost the B site. And now the bomb recovered by Soulfly, but there goes Shield. 3v2 advantage. Oh, Soulfly can't get into the site. He does manage to get a frag, but he takes so much damage in the engagement. Now they have to go together, and Soulfly still gets B-Nox. It looks like they're going to head A as well. I don't know if this is a great idea, because Mask can flank them both out. Mask, they're watching for it. Oh my goodness. Fireflux will win the round, despite the fact that the advantage felt like it was there for Eternal Fire. Goodness me. Look at this. I mean, look, the trades go through. Then Eternal Fire Mask spots out Shield. This is a 3v2 now. We didn't see the middle part, but essentially, just maybe too impatient on the Eternal Fire side. Fireflux getting a good read and deciding to take the aggression towards those double doors. So you have to give him a lot of credit for playing together. But Soulfly should have been dead to rights. I mean, his position was no. You got to get that trade onto him. He was trapped outside of double doors. It's usually a death sentence. Instead, Fireflux managed to pull it together enough to get a second round, and Eternal Fire unable to isolate it. So we go on into round number 6. Double door smoke going to get tossed. There's a flashbang. J-Rezi getting aggressive in towards upper tunnel. Spots out pass. So that's a great opener for Eternal Fire to have. And what's even better is because they went for that 3-man save a couple of rounds ago, they do still have a buy-up in the tank here. So that conservative play does pay off in the long run. Masked. Waiting it long. Feels like Fireflux are anticipating this close range play. We'll see. Soulfly. Oh, he was hard clearing it then. Didn't actually complete the clear. Banjo down to 10 HP. So much damage from Mast here. Although Finnegan finds B-Nox, leaving him more on an island. He has to be really careful. And he can't get anything either. Calix comes in on the flank. This is absolutely chaotic. Banjo and Finnegan trying to pull this one back after what was a nice play from Mast to open things up. It feels like a repeat of what we saw previously up against Y5. Not Y5. Up against Troglodytes. Finnegan going to find J-Rezi, and then Banjo getting Calix. And yeah, that's kind of going to the point I just mentioned. You had Mass doing so much work up against the Troglodytes. I think he was in the range of 20 frags, if not more than that, on Dust 2. Yeah, 20 frags exactly for a 1.58 rating. And yes, Imor and J-Rezi activated eventually. I think that came more at the tail end of the first half. Their CT side was really, really good. But on the T side, things just started to fall apart completely. And I don't even think Mast was available there. It was just the whole team couldn't do anything, which was so shocking. So for Eternal Fire, You want to see that CT side success because you know the T side's been really rough for you. This was 3-0 for Eternal Fire. The inability to close out the man advantages twice in a row will put them likely down a round. Unless things go horribly wrong for Fireflux here. And all that early confidence that was built up kind of disappears. So, round is over with that bomb plant. Fireflux going to try and hunt out Calyx and drop him to dirt. Not really worth the hunt. He's only got $700. In fact, he's got more to gain than Fireflux do from taking these fights. There you go. $50 for his whole squad, and, well, that's all he gets. Fireflux not too fussed either way, as they only lose one player. He'll get that AK dropped for him, or just buy it up himself one way or another. Fireflux have 4 rounds in a row. Eternal Fire, money-wise, should be okay to get a full buy. I'm just wondering if Amor will have enough for the op. I don't think so. Yeah, he does not. And then J-Rezi gets caught through the double doors by Shield's AWP. Soulfly opener towards long on mast. I mean, this is a problem for Eternal Fire, because this was their strength on CT side previously against Troglodytes. And now, you know, although Mast did have a very good start, Fireflux are really disposing of him very handily. Flashbang going to get tossed in. There's the nade to break the smoke. All right. Nothing seen, so Fireflux will continue their advance. Beanox trying to surprise them. Oh, the flashbang doesn't do anything to Fireflux. It blinds Beanox instead. Oh, goodness me. Eternal Fire are just trying to stay alive. And I mean, Amor does get one on Soulfly, so there is an opportunity for them to retain some control here on the A site, but they have to know Amor is at Gandalf at this stage. J-Rezi moving up to the cat box. And Amor gets another one. Paz and Shield have to do this together. Got a nice crossfire setup. Paz going to get cleared out. Oh, almost gets the call out, but Shield will connect onto Calyx. So that makes it a 1v1, and Shield picks up the AK, knowing that J-Rezi was low, and finishes the job. Fireflux will take the round, a 5th in a row. And although it gets close and Amor tries his very best to keep his team in it, this is the problem. Flashbang wasn't good. Timing wasn't good on the peak either. So they lose that first player. And despite the fact that Eternal Fire try to keep it close, that initial loss in that duel ends up being what cost them the entire round. Shield, another connection through the door. J-Rezi is not having a good time. That's for sure. Playing through those at mid position. Molotov sail in. Soulfly gets the opener on Calyx. B site completely exposed. And I mean, given the buy up here, it's just a half buy for Eternal Fire. They may just gamble towards B. We'll see what they decide. They haven't seen anyone yet, though, and they still have control from Amor on Plat. So they will hang around A, but going for some cat aggression, which is being waited for by Banjo. Eventually decide to hold their ground. Soulfly peeking around the corner. 1, 2, and not the third, but he does help out Finnegan to get that third. And Amor, last one standing towards B, knows he has to rotate over. Nothing really to lose by going for a fight. But this round, unless something insane happens, is over. That's pretty nice. Amor with one. A second. Oh, I thought he was cooking for a moment, but no. Double swing from Fireflux is too much for him to deal with, and Paz and Finnegan combined for the last. Fireflux, the round win streak continues. 6 in a row. And this is just a beautiful clear from Soulfly and Finnegan. Soulfly in particular, just getting those two. I mean, they had a feeling they were there. I believe there was some util that was tossed right before they went for that approach. So Fireflux trying to continue their run of form here on Dust 2. It is their pick, and for good reason. It's a map that they feel they can punish Eternal Fire on. Especially given Eternal Fire's previous result here. Oh, that's not great, Shield. You got to hit that flash. That's not one you want to miss. So now he has to wait in the upper tunnels instead of trying to go for a peek more aggressively. But there was a smoke there anyway, so... yeah. Upper holding in upper tunnels here for Fireflux indicates that this will likely be a B finish, especially with the bomb right behind him. Bomb will be corralled by Shield. They're just looking to see if they can find something towards A or Cat. And if they do, that could draw rotations. And I imagine they'll end up towards B in the end. I say that, but now Shield... I mean, it could be a mid to B instead. We'll see. Nade goes in. Not much damage done. There's a smoke thrown. 38 seconds left, and this has indeed changed to an A approach. Beanox would love to help his team out here and have a big round. Is in a perfect position to do so. Gets nothing. Oh my goodness, what a flash by Finnegan. Mast also completely blind. Falls back in towards CT. They've got presence at long, but Fireflux have the sight. So they're going to have to find a way to connect some of these shots. Calyx does. Then Mast gets Finnegan, so they deny the plant. Calyx doing the work against Banjo as well, and it's Calyx and Mast combining for 4. Paz, the last one standing, gets himself 2 already. Looking for that third on him more, but the time is going to run out on him. Round goes to Eternal Fire, and Paz dies after time. All right, well, he's still okay to buy up, but that one hurt for Fireflux. Felt like they had everything they could possibly want, but, I mean, just that presence at long was able to deliver so many frags. Mast and Calyx combining for 4 before Paz tries for that clutch, but there was so little time left that even if he wins the fights, it doesn't matter. He has to get all the frags before he did. Oh my goodness, Shield. This time, it is clean through the double doors. Not even a wall bang, and more is gone. Now Beanox will find one, but Banjo will swiftly trade it on towards Calyx. That is everything you could possibly hope for from your Opper on Dust 2 to get an opener that cleanly in the first 5 seconds. But Mast and J-Rezi doing the work for their squad and responding very effectively. Banjo and Finnegan, last 2 standing. They don't have the long control anymore. They've lost that. So they're just going to try and fall off. Finnegan and Banjo. Time to go to Cat instead, being watched by J-Rezi with the op, and J-Rezi gets nothing. Nice peek from Finnegan. Back to a 2v2, even numbers, 43 seconds left. Beanox gets 1 and the second as well. There we go. That's the impact he's hoping to have. A 3K on the round. Eternal Fire do at least get a couple back here. 6-5 in favor of Fireflux. Still hoping for themselves to get an edge going to that second half, but the money is very poor. First time out of the series called. Fireflux the ones to call it. They want to talk things over. Not the cleanest of halves for Eternal Fire, let's say that. But at the very least, getting more done here on their CT side against Fireflux than they did against Favbet, where they got 0. Hard not to get more than that, I suppose. But yeah, they were blanked in that second half. 6 rounds in a row for Favbet, and they were toast. Fireflux will have 4 Tech 9s and Mac 10. This would indicate a faster play. The spawn wasn't favorable for a B push. So instead, they group up 3 players towards top mid. They will eventually send the bomb in Banjo's hands towards those upper tunnels. And they're being given a lot of space here. No one watching mid. I think they're fed up with Shield, even though, Shield can't have an op in this instance. Perhaps they were expecting him to get a scout. He kept tagging them and bagging them towards mid. That's just not a position they want to fall to anymore. Fireflux biding their time. All 5 players eventually appearing to group up in for a B hit. They've got the flashes and the smokes. This can actually be really effective for Fireflux if they throw their utility exactly the way they want to. There are the mid to B smokes. Fireflux can move out now. They need to draw the attention here first before the other prong can move in. There they go. Pincering on forward. Beanox is here, and Beanox will get one. Calyx another, and then Calyx finds himself the multi. A 3K for him in the end. Shield the last one standing, but not for long. Beanox steals the killing blow. A full house between them as Eternal Fire will tie it up at 6 heading into this second half. It was looking kind of dire for them, let's be honest. In the opening moments, with how much control Eternal Fire had taken after, how much control Fireflux had taken after Eternal Fire had gotten 3 of the first 4 rounds. It was 5 rounds in a row for Fireflux before the response came through. But at least it comes through this time. So we move on. Second half pistol. Fireflux looking to win it this time. Get themselves off to the early start. While Eternal Fire, they would love, absolutely love to get a win on Dust 2. Because then they go to their comfort zone. A map that they've looked only good on Overpass. They don't want this to go to 3. As mentioned before, that Inferno, they got an 8-game losing streak there. They would love to finish this off in 2 maps and be done with this closed qualifier. Move on to the Swiss stage. Shield to get the first, Banjo the second, and well, I don't know if it's going to happen just yet, as that's a clean sweep for Fireflux. No one falls, and the pistol round will not go the way of Eternal Fire this time. Fireflux, that's just absolute domination. Shield just staying alive in this instance. Yes, he gets gushed, but because he's able to stay behind cover, Banjo attracts most of the attention with the dualies afterwards. Then he pops around that corner with the USP again and has a couple of very favorable duels. Hits his shots perfectly. And that B-site defense was tested, but did not fall at all. Paz has the FAMAS. No force buy in for Eternal Fire, but they do get the scout for Mass, and oh my goodness, that nade could have done so much more to J Resi. He's lucky he was behind the pillar. We're doing a little celebratory dance there. Eternal Fire. They're looking to Masked right now. What can he do with that scout? Nothing. I think. Oh, no. Are you going to throw it? Yes, there we go. Incendiary comes out. Finnegan takes care of Phoenox. Paz finds the following onto Amor, and this anti-eco goes exactly as you'd expect. Yes, the scout is recovered by Calyx, but, you've only got 2 players left. Okay, J-Rez just realized he slipped onto the site. He can get a knife kill here. Instead, just decides to go for the Glock shots. That's a plant onto B, and hold the phone now. An MP9 dropped at the feet of Jay Rezi. I think he would have loved if that frag came through cleaner, but the Glock always seems like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. It hit so many shots. Now the Scout will get another tag. Look how low they are. It's all up to Calix as his teammate Jay Rezi's gone, but Jay Rezi did not go down without a fight. He gets one, leaving this in a situation where a couple of shots to the body here will win it. Finnegan sticking to the defusal. Calix doesn't realize it, and the round is over. Calix, despite the effort of himself and the rest of his squad, will fall, and Fireflux get it. But it just goes to show you how much one gun can make a difference, because that was technically an eco with a Scout in the mix. 8-6 for Fireflux, despite that, as they extend their lead to 2. But we can't also forget that Eternal Fire gets the bomb plant, so that'll help their economy going to this next round immensely. We got a full buy, full util mask going with the MAC-10, but Shield, already talked about it, AWP in his hands. He gets dangerous, especially on those CT sides. Beanox finds the trade onto Soulfly. Eternal Fire regrouping, couple of players in mid, 2 towards long. They did get that long player Soulfly, as mentioned, who was at the top of the scoreboard, or still is, but he's dead. Look at the numbers there, 9999, 8999. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So even. Banjo's ruining it, though. He needs to get one more frag here. I think Shield's going to get it first. No! Shield gets nothing! Dead. 2 rights. Beanox finds the follow-up as well, and the long hold completely collapses. A defensive blunder. Paz, I believe, exposed through that smoke. No, Jay Rezi didn't realize that he'd seen Paz as he blew away that smoke. Now a 3v2 in favor of Eternal Fire. You gotta feel like, given the money situation and the HP for Paz, that Fireflux are just gonna save, and yeah, they've already called for it. Unbelievable. Eternal Fire will get a 7th, and this roller coaster ride continues. Alrighty. Neither team can seem to find that rhythm to take control of the map, which makes it feel like we're going to go the full 24. Just an inkling there. Fireflux still have enough money to scrape together a buy. It's not going to be ideal, but it will feature the MP9, the saved guns from the previous round, and a couple of FAMASs. Eternal Fire and more has the op. No op for his counterpart Shield, and look at that flurry of flashbangs from both sides going for long control, and Moore does a backflip as his body is absolutely ripped to shreds. Finnegan will find the follow-up, and nothing doing this time for Eternal Fire on their attempted take of long. So much manpower committed in that direction for Fireflux. A great read. The adaptation attempted by Eternal Fire, but Paz clotheslines Mask down to dirt. 5v2 for Fireflux, and they've only taken 6 HP of damage. What a flashbang to clear out mid. Finnegan finds the next. It's only Beanox left, and everything going wrong for Eternal Fire here, just because Fireflux took the gamble to try and counter an attempted long take. And boy, oh boy, did they ever. Completely rebuffed. Beanox on a save mission that will last a full minute. 51 seconds remain. Oh, Beanox, you're going to want to throw it a little bit higher. There you go. Over the fence, the op goes. Beanox just says, you know what? I want to die before time. I assume. No? I mean, if you're just going to save anyway, maybe keep the op? I guess he's assuming if he does get killed, that the op won't get picked up by Fireflux, which obviously is important. They want to get that back into Shield's hands as soon as possible. Oh, there comes the hunt. Beanox, you gonna live? Oh, they spammed the corner. They had the idea, but Beanox moved enough that he wasn't vulnerable to it. So he saves the AK, but no AWP available. Means that Amora has to settle for a Tech 9 instead. Mass with the Deagle. They are going to force up. Want to see if they can try to do this. It's a risk. Fireflux looking like the better team on CT side so far. A round victory here feels like it'll guarantee 11. Everyone grouped up in the mid. Double smokes thrown by Eternal Fire. It's kind of telegraphed, but yeah, they're heading in this direction. Fireflux ready for it. Banjo peeking around maybe a little too aggressively. They need to get this crossfire set up from Carr and Sight. Shield gets 2! Banjo goes down for free, and then Mass with the Deagle takes care of Paz. Shield getting 2. That's actually from CT, and more catches Finnegan on the boost. And then Soulfly charging into top mid finds him more. Players switching sides, CTs and T positions, Ts and CT positions, as we end up at a 2v2. Masked getting the A1S off the ground. Soulfly along with Shield have so much utility. You've got to deploy that effectively. And the only lacking thing is the kit. Oh, Masked absolutely demolished there by Soulfly, who forced him out of position, flushed him out with the Molotov. Now they've got on the Fusel. Calyx may have been overlooked at Big Box. He was round over. Eternal Fire take it just off the time, and they don't even need the time as Calyx secures it with the frag. We'll go down to the bomb anyway. So everyone dies. But man, oh man, Eternal Fire fighting tooth and nail in a round that, you know, was just it was the force buy where they took the gamble. I can't believe Shield gets 2 in that position, and then after that, Eternal Fire, despite this back and forth, are able to close it out with Calyx standing tall. I think the lack of the kit, obviously a bit of a problem there for Fireflux, but still, just when it looked like there'd be a team that would take control, it's ripped away by Eternal Fire. But absolutely, Fireflux are not going to back down when they're challenged. The force buy is on. Three players stacked up on the A side, a more passive approach to long this time for Fireflux, but eventually they want to get the information. It's too valuable to leave that much space available. Soulfly checks it out, says, hey guys, we're good. No one's home. Couple of smokes tossed by Eternal Fire on each bomb site. Trying to keep Fireflux guessing as to the direction that they'll go. But this is one of the problems Eternal Fire had on Dust 2 previously. They just take way too long to go for their executes. And eventually, it costs them rounds. Or it did cost them a lot of rounds against Troglodytes on Dust 2. So 30 seconds left. You don't really have any map control at this stage. Banjo can get one for free. And, ooh, Mass survives the duel. Now they charge in from the other side of B. And more finds Paz. 4v4, Molotov burning away. Finnegan gets a couple. One of them's his teammate. Banjo dead at the hands of his teammate. 3v3. Oh, slipping through the smoke. Finnegan gets one back, but Calyx with the insta trade. But do they have time to plant the bomb? Do they even have the moments to plant the bomb? It doesn't go down in time. Oh my goodness, what a play from Finnegan. He denies the plant at the very last possible moment that it can go down, and Eternal Fire cannot pick it up in time. And again, this is largely in part due to the fact that they wait so long to go for their executes that time runs out for them if one thing goes wrong. And that's exactly what happens here. So Fire Flux bounce right back, get a round victory. Is it expensive? Yes, absolutely. It's still very tight in terms of economy on both sides. But you see Eternal Fire frustrated, calling a timeout immediately, saying, guys, what the heck happened? How do we lose that round? Well, you take too much time. Take too much time to go for the execute. And Finnegan made a balls-to-the-wall play that you just don't expect. All right, Force Buy continues here, and Shield an opener through the double doors. He gets tagged by Beanox, but it's not enough for the frag. And he will be happy to collect a scalp early on in this round, something he's been very good at. Now going to the ramp position here. And I think the problem with the Force Buy in this instance for Eternal Fire is, one, the loss bonus is not really that high for either team because of the back and forth nature of the second half. And, because of that, you're not going to have a great buy-up. And two, as a result, you're likely giving Fire Flux 12 rounds here if you lose. Nade goes in. Mass managed to drop down. I don't know if Shield heard that. No, he did. He's waiting for it. Needs support. Flicks up anyway. Still looking down for Mast. Misses the shot, pulls out the pistol, can't finish it off. 4v3 advantage still. Reinforcements are trying to arrive, but Jay Rezi, with the AK picked up, will take care of Finnegan. 3v3. Eternal Fire, despite taking the risk for the Force Buy, look to reap the rewards of said risk. Banjo and Paz get a couple back, and now it's over. Fire Flux win it. Eternal Fire cannot get the Force Buy round victory, and, well, there is one benefit. They got the bomb plant here, right? So they get an extra $600 in the bank accounts, but the loss bonus isn't that great. What do you got here? Yeah, not too much. Not too much in the bank. Under 3K for pretty much everyone except Jay Rezi. And now, you're looking at an Eternal Fire squad that will get pistol upgrades at most. 11-8 for Fire Flux. Unless you get a miraculous round victory from Eternal Fire here, it's going to be 4 opportunities for Fire Flux to shut the door in their face. I still don't know what we'll even get out of Fire Flux on Overpass because we have no data from them on that map. But yeah. Jay Rezi, what a shot onto Shield. Finnegan at risk as well. Great flashbang thrown by Soulfly, recognizing that Finnegan was in a tough spot, and it helps him clear out Jay Rezi. Paz afterwards gets Beanox. Sets 2 pieces off the board for Eternal Fire. Mass shows his face towards B, but eventually gets rebuffed, and everything's being shut down at mid. Bomb is dropped, Mast is lost, and Calyx soon to fall as well. Fire Flux do indeed go up to 12. And they'll have 4 opportunities, as mentioned, to close this one out and send us to Overpass. This has been an all-around team effort coming through from the Fire Flux side. You have most players at or above a KDR of 1, only Banjo below it. But contributions from everyone. Finnegan with that ridiculous play, charge to the smoke. Shield with his opening frags with the AWP. And Soulfly holding down the fort when it comes to the A site and long. All right. Beanox tagged down to 55. They're just going all in on long or Eternal Fire. Well, I don't know how this is going to go. Soulfly is rotated over to this site. Shield waiting with the op. Shield connects onto him more. Oh, Vaz tries to get ahead of the smoke and can't do it. Soulfly drops 2. It is all Fire Flux here. Beanox only gets 1 back of 4v2. That Beanox and Calyx with no map control at all are going to have to try and find a way around. Banjo gets caught out by Calyx. Didn't realize that a player would be there, but there goes Beanox. Soulfly getting his 3rd. It is all down to Calyx, and he has no idea that Soulfly's repositioned a car. Calyx dead to rights. A quad kill for Soulfly. He's up to the top of the scoreboard with that performance. 21-14. Absolutely phenomenal. It's what you expect out of every single piece of Fire Flux. And we're going to see it again here. Shield getting that one over the top of the smoke. And Soulfly holding down the fort as he's been doing so very often from long A. Fire Flux, you knew that pick of Dust 2 was a good one based on what you saw against Favbet for Eternal Fire. And while Eternal Fire does get a little bit more done here on this map, it's only 3 rounds more compared to the Favbet match. So it still is a vulnerability, and it wouldn't surprise me to see more teams picking into it against Eternal Fire as time goes on. But, you know, looking next, let's put that one away. Right? Like, I think that Dust 2 is obviously, we were expecting Fire Flux to perform well there, and they did. Now we go into Overpass, where we have no idea what Fire Flux is going to be able to do, and this is going to be a different Eternal Fire that we see. It's not unusual for Eternal Fire to have these ups and downs bounces between maps and series, and, you know, just because their map pool is very polarized, I'd say, with maps they're good on versus the ones they're not good on, and Overpass is their best. 16-7 on the map. They've won 5 of their last 6 here. Beat Favbet, Partisan, Sparta, Johnny Speeds, and Alliance. Yes, a lot of those very tightly contested. In fact, most of them going 23 or more rounds, except for the Johnny Speeds one, where they won 13-8. But this is a map that you are going to expect Eternal Fire to play well on. A third, going to a third, is not something I'd be surprised about if we get to Inferno. But Fire Flux looking pretty strong as a unit. Overpass demands a lot of coordination, though, a lot of strategies, especially on your T side. Even on CT side, you have to get aggressive. You can't sit back. There's just too much map that you need to be aware of and too much information you have to gain. So I don't know if a team that hasn't played an official on it over the last 3 months is going to have a good time there, which is why I expect Eternal Fire to bounce back. But anyway, we'll have to wait until after this break to see if that does come to fruition. See you guys in just a bit. All right, we're back into it here, gearing up for Overpass. Fireflux up against Eternal Fire, and Fireflux have not played Overpass since it was re-added back into the map pool. This is their first foray onto it, and you have to imagine that, there's a reason they left it out there. Maybe they've been practicing it and they want to work it into their map pool, but they picked a bad team to try it up against. At least on the surface of it, when you look at the stats and the performances for Eternal Fire over the last few months. Let's see what they've got. Paz gets 3 with the dualies. Beanox and Moore and J Rezi gone thanks to a beautiful flashbang thrown by Banjo. Calyx and Mast now reeling a little bit. Mast does find the flanker, so that's one piece off the board. Only a man disadvantage now, and it's certainly recoverable, especially on a pistol round. Soulfly, kind of isolated here, does do a lot of damage and fades into connector without getting traded. Calyx just needs to find this, and there it is. Yeah, Soulfly very isolated, and Banjo gone next. I cannot believe it. Fireflux getting over-aggressive in their hunt for frags and leave Shield all by his lonesome. With 42 seconds left, can he catch a player fading away? No. There's dualies on the ground somewhere. I'd imagine he wants to grab those. But he still expects them to come towards the B site. Rotation. On towards A for Eternal Fire. They're slow on the approach because they don't know. Oh, actually, no, they're going back to B. Really? They expect Shield to have fully rotated towards that A site, but Shield is still here. 2 bullets from the USP and the round is over, but he can't connect them. Instead, he gets gushed by the Glock. Now gets the first 1v1 versus Calyx. 5 seconds left. Calyx trying to stick the bomb plant. Shield realizing it's bombed down, but Calyx still gets the headshot. 1 bullet, not enough for the frag. Short by 4 HP, and Calyx wins it. Despite the fact that Eternal Fire were down by a significant margin of 4v2, I believe it was. They come back into it and win the pistol. That's the thing about those pistol rounds. I was saying it as it happens. You just never know if a comeback can be on the cards, even with that 2-man advantage. Alrighty. We go on here. Force buy for Fireflux because they got that. Force buy. Yes, for Fireflux. And Finnegan's going to get the first 2. Doesn't get traded up by Beanox. They don't expect Soulfly, and there it is. Another 4v2 advantage for Fireflux. Trying to make that work. And more. Wow, Soulfly didn't hear a single thing. That does give away information to Banjo, but they lose one of their biggest pieces. Rifle gone. J Rezi and Amor slowly but surely work up towards that A site. 38 seconds left. I think the slow play that Eternal Fire likes to deploy on their T side is very beneficial on a map like Overpass, just because there's so much space to cover for the CTs that just on a map like this, it's not too shabby. That said, they don't have the manpower in this case, so Shield will get 1, and the last on to J Rezi. Eternal Fire lose the round. It's Fireflux that take it, and tied up 1-1 off of their force buy. So we go on to round number 3. Nade gonna get tossed there. Breaking the smoke open, but in the meantime, Fireflux are just charging in towards the B site. Trades go back and forth. It looks like, it'll be Eternal Fire winning out the duels. Soulfly and Shield, the last 2 standing, and Calyx takes care of Shield. Soulfly A1S in his hands. A chance at a clutch here. It's not going to be easy. Not sure if he meant to throw that. I guess he's trying to clear out Pit. But anyway, it is going to be a round victory for Eternal Fire. So the Forest By Wars will continue. Soulfly knows how important this A1S is in their journey to continue going back and forth here on Overpass. It will be 2-1 for Eternal Fire. I think for Fireflux, just to stay competitive here on Overpass will be an achievement for them. But what you absolutely require is a strong CT side. I think that goes without saying. And you look at the numbers there for Eternal Fire. They're actually good on both ends of the map. CT side's slightly better for them in terms of round win percentage, sitting at 54.2%. And on the side of on the T side, their round win percentage is 53.4%. So just a 0.8% difference between sides, which means they have a very balanced approach to this map. Not surprising, but yeah, not many weaknesses for them, assuming they play to their potential. Calyx opener onto Finnegan in the lower tunnels. That's Eternal Fire, starting things off well. Calyx maybe overstaying his welcome here? Yeah, Soulfly catches Jay Rezi, and then Calyx jumps around for information, but he has to get back up that ladder! Oh, does escape and throws the Molotov to cover his retreat. Beanox has found the space onto B. Oh no. Fireflux are in trouble. No way they're going to expect Beanox to be here. There you go, Banjo. Deleted. Now they know he's in that position, but there's just so many spots to consider. Paz needs to clear out the left side, right side, excuse me. He does not do that. And you see Eternal Fire in instances, excuse me, when they shouldn't be getting aggressive on their CT side, they are, right? And that comes from inexperience on Overpass. They need to be playing more passively in that instance and get back to the B site because there was zero coverage. Paz should never be able to, Beanox should never be able to slip in that easily towards B with no one spotting him. Eternal Fire just too eager to take the space. And while that's good in the early parts of the round, in the latter part, once you've got that information, you want to play more passively. In the end, Soulfly and Shield are going to save the guns. And it will be a 3-1 lead for Eternal Fire, folks. Just a scoreboard right now a little bit reversed. So it is actually Eternal Fire winning the round, and they are the ones with the 3-1 lead. We'll get that fixed up for you in just a bit. But Eternal Fire doing pretty well. Now the Forest By Wars are over, but at the very least there were a couple of guns saved over for Eternal Fire. So we'll have the A1S and the Galil. Smoke going to get tossed in for the bathrooms as Eternal Fire continue their approach and try to expand on that lead. Beanox headshot on a Banjo. 5v4 in favor of Eternal Fire. Paz, Soulfly, Finnegan, and Shield still remain. They have gotten a little bit more tempered in their approach. 3 players waiting at B, one with that long control, that is Soulfly. You kind of want to have him towards the B side, assuming the hit will be there, but it looks like him approaching from connector isn't that bad. Yeah, there he goes. He gets J-Rezi. They were trying to rotate Eternal Fire, that is, out of connector towards short A, but Soulfly catching one without the immediate trade is very good, and he takes no damage in the engagement. They're trying to surround him from long and short A. Soulfly still gets a second on Beanox. Eventually this flank has to activate. There we go, but it cost them 2 lives. So it's a 3v3. Shield, Paz, and Finnegan now can rotate towards the site. And Shield coming in from the flank could be powerful, but Immor's waiting, and it doesn't matter. Shield with the AK will get that frag, picked it up right off the ground, and used it immediately. 3v2. Finnegan and Paz only on USP, so they're relying on Shield a lot, and yeah, they fall to Calyx, leaving only Shield standing, who does it with the USP. Time ticking away. He needs to start defusing this bomb quickly, and decides to stick it. Mast not expecting this. Shield's on the full 10 seconds. Mast has to peek it. Eventually he will. And yeah, there we go. Mast has to... got the frag. Shield had to turn around to see what was happening. And eventually, Eternal Fire do push it across the finish line. But it gets a little dicey in a round that was just to save rifles. Just goes to show you how one rifle can do the damage. And then Shield picking up the AK off the ground almost finishes the job. If he has a kit there, he wins it. Fireflux. Only that 1 round picked up versus Eternal Fire's 4. Smoke gonna get tossed for monster tunnels. And Banjo waits on the other side of it. Calyx just trying to spam through and gain visibility. And now a recycled smoke makes it even more difficult for Eternal Fire to execute. They're just going to try and flash out and go through. Banjo's position actually quite potent. Oh, great flash. They don't clear him. I thought they were going to clear him. Banjo gets one. Almost a second. Paz will finish that one off, and Paz a 3K. Last one standing is Amor, who manages to stay alive for just a moment longer before Shield finishes him off. I thought they were clearing Banjo, but I guess that flashbang blinded them for a moment, and they didn't see him, so they kept fighting forward, but I think once the double take comes through, it's too late. We've lost J-Rezi. So a bit of a tech pause coming through, folks. Hopefully we'll have him back in not too long of a wait. Anyway, we're about to jump into the 7th round. That's a big one for Fireflux to take. The MP9 doing so much work from Banjo. Got a frag and a half, essentially. Then the rifles took over in support. Not to mention, that's kind of costly for Eternal Fire, right? Because a lot of those 4-round victories were very tightly contested. Coming down to 1 man, 2 men left standing. And you see the result of that here in their buy-up. You know, you have a couple of AKs, a Tech 9 and more, and J-Rezi probably just going to have pistols as well. Not great. So Fireflux have paved themselves a path back into this. Early utility toss towards playground. Fireflux trying to get aggressive, at least for a moment. Don't want to be too antsy for that hunt. 4 players for Fireflux on B, only 1 at the A site, and that's why Soulfly doesn't want to stay too long towards that fountain position. Yeah, if he's still there right now, he's probably dead. As Eternal Fire are pincering from connector and fountain. 1:18 on the clock. Eternal Fire slowly but surely moving their way up. Calyx clearing out all of the space in connector. Smoke going to get tossed to A, but this feels like a B finish. They're just trying to distract and force rotations from Fireflux. It's not working. Fireflux are not buying it at all. Paz, Banjo, and Shield pretty much don't move any muscles at all in the direction of the A site. Shield's thinking about it. Maybe he'll play Graffiti. But there's Banjo through the smoke, connecting onto Mast. 40 seconds left. Eternal Fire know they have to get a move on soon, and utilities run almost completely dry. Couple of smokes and a flash. Now they're trying to rotate back to A with 30 seconds left, and there's a player watching on the other side. I don't know how I feel about this one. Soulfly could catch them off, and he does. There's one trade from Amor. 20 seconds now. They have to rush to the A site, hope that no one's there. That is the case for now, but Calyx is caught lurking towards B, trying to catch off rotations. Nades sail through, and more down to 23 HP. Will get the plant, but they're in a dire spot. Only 100 HP combined, just under that, at 99. Versus 4 fully healthy players that have rifles in their hands. This is going to take perfect crosshair placement. And it's unfortunately for Beanox, he falls immediately. Sure, gets the trade, but he's not going to last long with the flank coming through. Paz gets that. A third round for Fireflux, and the defusal is on the cards. At least Eternal Fire get the bomb plant, but now they can't force up. They cannot justify a force buy in this next round, so it'll just be the half buy at most, maybe just some upgraded pistols. And I mean, the decision to go back towards A, while I understand it, and they do get a bomb plant off of it, it feels like they should have just committed towards the B side at that moment because they had the control and they would have been able to toss a couple of pieces of util in and maybe get another Fireflux player on the ground. I mean, perhaps you don't get the bomb plant in that instance if things go wrong, but it feels like the chance of success if you're able to catch them off guard is much greater in that instance. Anyway, it plays out the way it does, and Eternal Fire's infinite rotations end up costing them. Not to mention, they lost the numbers as they were coming up connector, right? Anyway, Soulfly waiting in connector this time. We'll find him more. Just the anti-eco with some upgraded pistols. And yeah, Soulfly's like, okay, maybe I can get an ace here, perhaps? And Shield tells him, no, we don't want your ego to get too crazy. That's a nice shot onto Finnegan. Instant trade from Shield, and that is the round over. Soulfly and Shield combining for all 5 frags. Soulfly with the majority of them at 3. And we're tied up at 4. Great recovery from Fireflux. Again, it's not a map they necessarily have played recently. I mean, I'm sure these players have been on Overpass in the past or played in their pugs. So it's not something that's unusual for them, but as a unit, they haven't necessarily been able to get officials on it. It's not having necessarily, they haven't gotten officials on it. So we'll see if they can keep this up. I think T-side's going to be a lot more difficult for them. Mast around the corner. Engaging with Paz. Beanox by his side. No, they decide against it. Beanox is going to be the one to take the fight. And wins it! They lost Mast, though. He went around towards the other side, so it's an even trade. Usually favoring the T side when that happens, but because of the amount of presence towards B, not necessarily the case. And yeah, Shield catches off Beanox, trying to lurk even further and do more damage. The bomb is still down right outside of T spawn, so Eternal Fire are going to go recover that. Space being gained in the meantime, a little disjointed here. Calyx by himself, taking fights to A. In a 4v3 situation, you kind of want him to be a little more cautious than that. Eventually, yes, he does wait for his teammates to arrive, and that smoke will guise off his presence. Could use that to his advantage now. Pushing through it, flashed out. Oh, doesn't see the player card, and doesn't even die to him. He dies to the one he's engaging with, that Soulfly. And more in Calyx, last 2 standing. And I mean, at this point, at least in the last few rounds, the only thing Eternal Fire has been doing well is staying alive for the majority of the rounds. Calyx, last one standing. And I mean, I imagine he's going to want to save this AK. Time slowly ticks away. And it is 5-4 for Fireflux, their first lead here on overpass. And let's not forget, if Fireflux, for example, wins out here on their CT side, 8-4 is really good for overpass. It's what you kind of expect the CTs to be able to pull together. And it wasn't looking great at the beginning, but they've just been so patient. They've settled down. They haven't gone over aggressive like they were in the first few rounds. They've tempered their approaches, and that's the adaptation that has allowed them to find round victories. Just letting Eternal Fire kind of stew, not allowing them to gain those early frags and advantages that they were getting in the first 4 or 5 rounds. Saved AK for Calyx, everyone else on the pistols. Perhaps they'll simplify things and just go for a straight take of this B site. We'll see. J Resi waiting. Flashbangs and smokes available here for Eternal Fire. Again, they wait. There we go. Yep, they're going to simplify it. Just going for the straight take. As mentioned, smoke is out. Paz going to get 1. They could get overloaded here. Need to be careful around the edges of these smokes. Bomb intends to be planted within it, and they will succeed in doing that. That's actually mission accomplished. Now they could get more. Beanox finding 1 and more. Another down to a 2v2. They've got rifles in their hands, and things are going from bad to worse for Fireflux. Nade sails into heaven. And more and Beanox can now tuck in a post plant. That is not great. You'd think Eternal Fire just walk out of that with a bomb plant, but no. And more pops out of the smoke, gets 1. Beanox the same. And time is ticking away. Yes, they have the defuse kit, but they have to get this frag quickly, and they do. Is their time? It's going to be close. Should be okay. Yeah, just barely. Fireflux do win the round, but man, that was so close. So close. Well fought by Amor, along with Beanox. But at the end of it, they'd still fall. 6-4 for Fireflux, but a bomb plant, 3 frags, it's not too shabby at all for Eternal Fire. That being said, Fireflux, because they've gotten so many round victories in a row, their bank accounts are very healthy, so they're not too fussed at all. They're going to get that buy up very easily. And that early util toss by Fireflux, I mean, it's interesting to see because they've got the util, the smokes, the Molotovs, everything that you would expect a team to have on overpass in place. So it tells me that, yes, they have been practicing here. They have been trying to work overpass into their pool, and this is their first foray on it. Trying to test themselves, I guess, and see if they've got what it takes to defeat a team like Eternal Fire on this map. The last team to get a win against them was Ekblot, and it was 13-11. Before that, it was a 4-game win streak for Eternal Fire. And they did just beat Favbet earlier today, 13-10, but lost that series in the end. I mean, checking out the scoreboard, you're looking at the op of Shield. It has been performing quite well at 11 frags. But as was the case on Dust 2, it feels like everyone's getting implicated, for Fireflux, which is what they need. Oh, what a horrible time to pull out the util for Calyx. Ay, 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 Soulfly. Insta headshot, and they didn't even have the ability to trade because of how quickly that happened. Player towards long could find that trade eventually. That is J Resi. J Resi. Yeah, this will be free. There we go. Soulfly gone. 4v4, and then Beanox gets Finnegan. That is all the space they need to just charge in towards the A-site. Rotations will be on. Shield trying to get in with the op, but the utility is going to block him for the time being. They try to break the smoke, and it's successful, but they don't spot anyone out around it. So now they have to wait for the smokes to fade away because they don't have any flashes nor nades remaining. Could toss a smoke of their own to try and isolate some fights. They don't have to save. I mean, they have the money to buy up in the next round, so saving doesn't make any sense. Just full sending it is the best plan. Gotta try. Paz gone. Banjo and Shield still remain. Trying to get something, anything. Maybe keeping the op out of their hands will be a good idea. Shield realizing that. Just going for frags at this stage. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, either way, they can't stay around that bomb site, so... And Amoro's already got the AWP, so they don't want to run a double op. Alright. Fireflux will fall in that round. Great work from Eternal Fire. Gotta give them credit. I mean, Jay Rezi catching off Soulfly after he gets that opener, evens up the numbers, and Finnegan can't do anything on the attempted trade. Afterwards, fantastic utility to isolate the site completely, and they don't give Fireflux an easy path back in. Those are the types of executes you expect to see from Eternal Fire on Overpass. As they get a 5th. Trying to tie things up at the half again, as was the case on Dust 2. Unfortunately for Eternal Fire on Dust 2 anyway, things did not go well for them when they switched sides. Losing that one 13-8, only 2 rounds on their T side of Dust 2. But now they're switching to CT side, and well, they're still not tied up. I don't know if that's going to happen now. Shield gets a second one. Jay Rezi falling to dirt. Paz and Shield finding those first 2, and Paz continues to stick around at Sandbags. Another frag to his name. Immort and Mast scrambling to regroup. They're isolated from each other for now. And if they get Mast without Immort being in position, then this round is probably over, especially considering Mast has the bomb. That's not going to happen, though. Oh, maybe it will. Yep, it does. Immort can't activate, and Banjo gets the last 2. It is Fireflux taking the lead into the second half, 7-5. But 5 rounds, still very good for a T side of Overpass. I mean, this nothing to really be upset about if you're Eternal Fire. Maybe they could have gotten another one if they hadn't misplayed a couple of rounds, but still, they are going to a CT side that they tend to perform well on in good shape. And I think this becomes the true test for Fireflux, right? Because we don't have any data on them. We don't know how they're going to perform on their T side, but given what we've seen in terms of their util deployment and everything on CT side, I expect that they prepared for this. I expect that they were waiting for an opportunity to show their Overpass to the world. And this is it. So not going to be an easy finish for Eternal Fire if they want to push this one to a map number 3. Let's see what pistol round strat they've got up their sleeves. Finnegan pushed up the fountain. Not much aggression from Fireflux here. No one in con. No one push fountain. Immort towards back of short A. Here's the boost. Oh, this boost is so lethal if you don't clear it. Oh, Shield is watching. Very aware. They only spot Shield, though, but that may be enough. Yeah, they're rotating completely over to this A site. Bodies will be ready. Guns at the ready as well. Lots of time left. Fireflux will get the first, the second as well. Soulfly finds all 3. What a flashbang from Shield to set all of that into motion. Beanox and Mast don't have much available to them. Yes, they have a smoke, but I'm sure they want to try and save that to throw it onto the bomb. But in order to get there, frags required. Beanox gets 1. Mast, trying to set a second, won't be able to do so. It's all up to Beanox, and he delivers 1, 2, a third perhaps? Time is taken away. Kit recovered. Smoke available. Throws that towards the bomb. Ooh, gonna try to get the defusal? No. I mean, he just tries to take a fight instead. A fake defuse, and Banjo will deliver the final frag. So a fantastic effort from Beanox in a dire circumstance, but he won't be able to convert it. And Fireflux will get the pistol. They are on for an 8th. And I mean, just look at the difference between the T sides compared to Eternal Fire and Fireflux. Fireflux go fast and furious towards that A site, whereas Eternal Fire are biding their time, you know, going for a slower approach, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just that you don't allow yourself that time to adjust to a potential stack towards a site when you're going that slow, unless you get the information early on. Anyway, round number 14. Fireflux, they've got the AK out, along with 3 Galils in the MAC-10. And on the other side, Eternal Fire are not backing down from the fight. Force buy on, boost for the A1S. It's a 3-man boost, and it works out beautifully. Finnegan gone. Excuse me, 2-man boost. And now Mast will get Banjo. Great start for Eternal Fire. Rebuffing the attempts from Fire Flux with a great boost. They still have to hold off these rifles because they've only managed to take out the smaller pieces. Paz making a lot of noise. Amor has to hear this. How is Paz not expecting that? Why are you walking like that towards long? Oh my goodness. Paz gone. Awareness lacking in the round. And Shield and Soulfly wondering what did we do? I mean, it may be Soulfly wins the fight towards the B site. Still all 5 players up for Eternal Fire. Is it out of reach for Fireflux? No. But it feels like, given the amount of time left and the space they've got available to them, yeah, they're just going to save. Just going to be a save. Eternal Fire win the force buy and don't lose a single body. There was a Galil picked up by Amor. Maybe more than that can be recovered. There's the Mac 10 for Mast. So they get some freebies and built up their economy. And that's the type of play that might not work against a team that's more experienced on Overpass, but because, you know, Fireflux aren't necessarily at that level yet, they get caught off. The boost I'm talking about. So it will be a 6th round for Eternal Fire. Still back by 2 rounds. And yeah, I mean, after that, you have to talk it over. Calling a timeout, they say, okay, that boost should never work again. We have to be ready for it. And watching every time we approach into Monster. And they're also discussing how they should deploy their limited pieces of util into this round. Because even with the Force Buy on, you know, Soulfly and Banjo are the only ones that are going to have it. Maybe Paz could get a few pieces as well, but he needs the body armor, so probably not. Yeah. Maybe go for that faster play again. Paz was thinking about it. He's like, oh, do I go Glass Deagle and get util? And teammates are like, no, stop it. You need the armor. You're going to get destroyed. That being said, I mean, if you're supporting your rifles with flashbangs, maybe the armor doesn't matter because you just rely on the rifles instead. Well, I mean, there's arguments both ways, but I think the more logical one is to stick with the body armor. Paz, going to get naded down at 52. Soulfly, obviously aware of that boost, more common. Fireflux taking their time on the approach, deciding not to go too quickly. Soulfly, the first point of contact from Sandbags. Not much util deployed here, and Soulfly gets a free engagement against Mask. Calyx finds the trade immediately. Information gained at the very least for Fireflux. And they'll get 2 more! Oh my goodness, it's just a pile of frags for Fireflux here all across the map. They catch all the Eternal Fire players in positions where they're not able to be traded. Now they know that Beanox is here towards B. Banjo says, nope, not gonna go there. Just gotta grab that bomb. Thing is, Beanox realizing he's retreating. Oh, takes down Banjo. That is such a good initiative for him. He'll find the bomb as well. And while it was going so well for Fireflux, oh, Beanox thought he could pull it back, but he can't. The low HP players do manage to win the day, and Fireflux will take it 9-6. Now the scoreline. This is just so devastating for an Eternal Fire squad that felt like they were getting back into it. Look at that flurry of frags that comes through. And again, it's all over the map. Impossible to track in real time, but one is over at B, the other one at long A, one towards the A site, and just everything going Fireflux's way. Wow. Working out on the force buy for Fireflux, but you guessed it, Eternal Fire going back to their force buy as well. 2 rifles, make that 3, and 2 MP9s. That is a round and a half, though. And again, it starts with Soulfly. He keeps taking these opening duels. Winning fights. So far, throughout this series, he's been the MVP. Doing so much work for his squad. Dust 2, he was holding the fort over at Long A. getting entries as well. Shield was doing work with the AWP. Even on the rifles, he was pretty solid. And again, you know, it's a similar story. I think everyone contributing here for Fireflux, and you have those two that are standing above the rest. All right. Trades early. Down to a 4v4. Mast very aggressively postured. Oh my goodness. That is the risk. That is the risk of going that far down long A. Is that if it's cleared, you're dead to rights, especially with Peeker's advantage in CS2. 4v3 for Fireflux. J-Rezi getting aggressive as well. Trying to get in on a flank here, and he could do so. No one's really watching the upper tunnels, but he's still wary of a push potentially to come through from Monster towards Connector. They do not have the manpower to gain the information, though, at Long A right now. They're going to go for a peek eventually. Well, there's a bit of an audio cue, but they're too far to hear it, our Eternal Fire, for now. There's the utility tossed in. Beanox still not peeking towards long. Waiting for the close range engagement. Makes sense. A wise choice with the MP9. Great flashbang. That isolates Beanox completely. He manages to get into cover off of purely muscle memory. Finds one. Looking for the second as well. Still surviving here. And there's the spam from Soulfly through the smoke to deal with him. J-Rezi still standing, and so is Calyx. They pull two back. Paz, last one available, has to clutch it out, but a jumping Calyx finishes the job. Eternal Fire get the Force Buy on back. And we are just going Force Buy to Force Buy, toe to toe between Eternal Fire and Fireflux. Eventually, something's got to give. One of these two teams has to fall for a couple in a row. You'd imagine, anyway. Force buying to the finish line does not happen often at all. We're still in it here, with neither team getting two in a row. All right. Early damage done to Paz. Down to 50, same for Beanox, so pretty even overall in terms of the early engagements. Buy-up has stabilized significantly for Eternal Fire. This is potentially a chance for them to punish, but Paz with the nade. A touchdown onto Calyx. Mass traded up by Finnegan. They're swarming around the B site, and Fireflux have managed to take control of it. J-Rezi, ooh, the nade doesn't do that much damage. They're okay. J-Rezi and Amor still a chance to get back in here, but it's a man disadvantage situation. Turned into a 2v2 thanks to Amor's frag. Finnegan and Banjo, do they know that both players are below them? I don't think so. They will find out, and the trades are good for Fireflux. They get their Force Buy, and we continue to go back and forth, which would not be favorable for Eternal Fire. Oh my goodness, what just an absolute swarm of players go into the B site, overloading Eternal Fire, who just don't expect that type of aggression. But that is what Fireflux have been deploying round after round. They're really not taking their time. Yes, I mean, at the beginning of the round, maybe just setting things up, but they're going a lot earlier in the rounds than Eternal Fire were. There's the nades. Let's see if Eternal Fire can pull one back again. Soulfly the opener, more the trade, but it will be an advantage for Fireflux. 4v3. The rifle is lost for Eternal Fire as well. Couple of Deagles and an MP9 remain. Fireflux slow down the pace just for a moment. They want to see what's available to them. Waiting to see if Eternal Fire will try to re-aggress or if they're just going to wait on the sites. B is the most vulnerable for now. Oh, they're accelerating. Getting ready to toss some quick flashbangs in towards the B site. Look how much util they have, right? They got so much available to them. They don't want to let it go to waste. As the train whizzes past overhead. They trying to move into B, but Mast, a beautiful headshot onto Finnegan, doesn't stick around to get traded. That'll leave the doubt in the minds of Fireflux and information gained from Mast. Players are going to rotate down, but they can't go straight to the site. They're going to join Mast instead and try to move in as a unit. They're trying to recover the rifles as well, and there is an A1S picked up by Beanox. Bomb should be planted, so pressure is on for Eternal Fire, but they can still pull this one back. They lose Calyx. Paz isolates him. Mast with that deagle still remains. Can he get a little bit more out of it? Beanox. Ooh, does so much damage to Paz, but he can't finish him off. He expects Paz to repeat, but he's not doing so. Mast does get one more with the deagle, but there is the trade again. A 2v1. Eternal Fire. They're waving the white flag. This round is done. Fireflux end the Force Spy Wars with an 11th. And that is, again, the same as Dust 2, right? I mean, the Force Spies were going down to a point where Eternal Fire were facing a possibility of it being 12-8 without them having the chance at preventing a map point in that case. Now, it's the same story, but they have to prevent map and series point with only the saved rifle. Goodness me. Fantastic work from Fireflux, though. Again, you know, good on the trades, the spacing strong, didn't allow Eternal Fire to gain the ground, even though it was threatening time and time again. Just staying alive in that situation for Paz up against Beanox is key, right? Because if you fall, it's a 2v2 and things get scary. But just having the threat of a player is enough for Beanox to wait and stay back that little bit longer. That buys time off the bomb and sets the panic bell, or excuse me, the alarm bells ring off in the minds of Eternal Fire, realizing they have to activate soon or else that bomb is going to explode. Oh, there we go. Are they forcing up? They're doing it. Wow, what a risk for Eternal Fire. That means if they lose this round, they're not going to have much of anything. Just a similar buy-up in the next one as well. Goodness me. What a risk to take. And again, this is a map that Eternal Fire tend to do really well on. They haven't lost it without getting double digits since September 9th up against Forza Reload. Calyx will get the opener. Banjo finds the trade, but Amor will give his team the 4v3 edge. Bodies stacked up into this B site. Fireflux trying to readjust, looking for construction control now. The gamble for Eternal Fire so far paying off, but it's not over yet. Beanox in prime position to come in on a flank once the information is gained by Eternal Fire that they're coming through from sandbags. Still hasn't activated. Eventually, you'd like to see him get a move on here, but he's not sure if they'll be watching, so he has to be cautious. "55 seconds left. There's Beanox. The activation, the bomb dropped at his feet. Banjo Banjo gone, and Shield along with Paz. I'm wondering what the heck do we have to do to gain control of this map? Paz does get one back onto Amor. And a second? Oh no, hold on a second. They find 3! From a 4v2 to a 2v1 in favor of Fireflux. Eternal Fire had everything. The bomb was dropped. The control they wanted. They try to take fights into the site, and that is what cost them. Mast is still hiding behind Toxic. He is the snake in the grass. He needs to hit a couple of quick deagle shots. They haven't cleared it yet. You imagine they will, but they don't. Shield, oh my goodness, is ripe for the picking, and Mast will eventually collect that frag. Paz, the last one standing. Mast knows he's on the site. A 1v1, a chaotic round that has featured an insane amount of swings. Mast waits with the deagle, hits the shot! Eternal Fire win the Force Spy. 8th round secured despite things seemingly going completely awry. Defusal is on, and we've got an 8-11 scoreline. The thing is, I mean, look, the buy-up's can actually be better for Eternal Fire, but that is a massive risk to take, but it pays off. And when it does, you at least keep Fireflux at bay, but they will have a buy-up, though. Now, they're still going to buy up the AKs. It's going to be a tough fight for Eternal Fire to the finish line. They knew that. But getting that round victory is such a boost. 3 A1Ss, the AK and the FAMAS. They can't get the op out. But if you look on the other side, Fireflux have to settle for a deagle, but still have a couple of AKs in the mix. This is insane. This whole half, this whole map of play. Fireflux still with the control. They're the only team to get a couple of rounds in a row here in this second half of action. Which means that their lead, which was 7-5 at the beginning of this half, extends from 2-3. However, if Eternal Fire win this one here, probably, I say probably, going to be a third afterwards. Thing is, will Fireflux force up too? Right? Because we didn't expect Eternal Fire to go for that force buy previously. Nade gets tossed in, shield, the receiving end of it, down to 60 HP. Not from that nade, it was from an earlier engagement, but still a little bit of chip damage from the nade. 45 seconds left now. Fireflux have been very good on the quick executes, and now they're throwing the change-up pitch, going a little bit slower. Trying to keep Eternal Fire guessing, but it looks like they're guessing correctly. 3 players on A, 2 towards long, 1 on the site proper. And you can activate J-Rezi in towards short bathrooms. He hasn't been that effective in this match, but if there's ever a time when he needs to shine, now would be it. B-Nox in at 1, traded up by Banjo. Mast waiting at dice box, more at long, and J-Rezi also in that position, but they lose him more. J-Rezi does find the trade. 3v3, Calyx on to Finnegan, back and forth we go again, down to a 2v2. Fireflux have made the correct mid-round call. They send the bomb to the B site, and it's a free site to take. Plant is in. Oh no! But they ran out of time! Right at the last second, I thought they had it, but no! Eternal Fire win the round purely off of time! It was a half a second difference between planting the bomb and not being able to get it. And wow, that is wild. 2 rounds in a row for Eternal Fire. They're back into it. At least a couple of guns for Fireflux brought over from that previous one, but they don't get the loss bonus. So it's hard to justify a force buy. So now, the force buy wars are over, but with an asterisk, because there's 2 AKs still up and running for Fireflux. I would have almost argued they should go for it, because those players are so low. Soulfly gets the opener, though, so let's forget about that for now. J-Rezi finds that great nade toss to find the trade by him more. There's an AK on the ground, likely to be picked up here, and oh no! Finnegan and Banjo get caught going for the boost! Eternal Fire bring it to a 4v2. Shield does manage to recover one of the AKs, but this has gone from unlikely to dire for Fireflux. Oh, Shield gets one, but traded out immediately by Mast. Leaves Paz on an island by his lonesome. Bomb on his back, and still time to work with. Perhaps a chance to isolate duels. The problem is no armor at all. Needs to win this fight exceptionally cleanly. 1v1 against Mast. Going towards Bank. That's the damage. Can he finish the job? Yes, he can, and takes none in turn. Upgrades himself to an AK, so he's got that one-shot headshot potential now. Expecting a flank to come through. 25 seconds left. B-Nox from long. Around the corner. The timing is good, but he can't get the frag. 1v1 now. Paz. 15 seconds left. Is he going to try to run it B? No way. There's no time. He has to plant it at the A site, but he can stick behind the dice box here and go for the safe one. That's exactly what he's going to do. Oh, the nade comes in. He doesn't have time now. It's going to be close. Maybe the last second it'll come through. Yes. He does still have just enough time to plant that. Flashbang tossed. Calyx slightly blinded. Paz trying to outduel him, but he can't do it. Calyx wins the 1v1. And Eternal Fire do get a 10th. But man, that was again a nail biter of a round. We've had them back to back to back to back. Whew. Bit of a chance to breathe there, but oh my goodness. I thought Paz had it. I really did. I'm surprised he even hesitates to go for that plant initially, because it's the nade and it wasn't going to kill him. I think he had enough health to absorb it. Just A bit of panic setting in. Because if he plants a little earlier, then he can get the jump on Calyx a little bit better. But because he waits, Calyx gains so much more ground. Maybe he thought he heard footsteps. Either way, Fireflux do have the buy up here. We can't forget that was just the eco round for them. Sure, Soulfly's on a Galil, but they go fast this time, and Calyx greets them with a couple of bullets for Banjo and Soulfly. Nice trade from Finnegan, a mortar strike back forward. But shield is down to 17, and there's still tons of util that Eternal Fire are going to cycle through. It doesn't feel like any round is a sure thing, though. Even with this man advantage and shield on low HP, this could turn on a dime. "51 seconds remain. There goes Paz. He's got Velox. 3v3. Imor's still waiting on the site. Shield could find him, and he does! A 3v2 for Fireflux. Shield watching it to connector. He's got the right read. Fireflux a 3v1. J-Rezi the last one standing. Fireflux going for map and series point. J-Rezi does the damage to Paz. Can he clutch this out? It's not impossible. Gets the first, but not the second. Shield the 3K with 17 points of health the entire time. Does it all for his squad. Fireflux 12, Eternal Fire 10, and they pull back the man disadvantage after that. Absolutely wild Counter-Strike that we're getting to witness. So entertaining. As both teams refuse to say die. Last time out used by Fireflux. And I mean, this force buy is not going to be great on the side of Eternal Fire. Not that that's really made a difference, because we've seen things like this work for both teams throughout the entirety of this half. Two 5.7s, the Deagle, the A1S, and a more. I mean, I'm guessing he's going to be on a Deagle as well, or a 5.7. Oh boy. Can they do it? Can Eternal Fire stay alive? Or is this the end for them here in this series? Won't be the end for them in CCT series number 8. Because they'll go to 1-1 and have a chance again tomorrow to qualify for the Swiss stage. But I mean, look, I mentioned it before. Shield as an opper for Fireflux has been an upgrade for Dougie in his first, 2 maps that he played, and now his first 4, right? And these ones, Paz gets the opener. Let's talk about the action here. 129 remains. Plenty of time for Fireflux. And J-Rezi, oh, he gets caught out too. 5v3 now, and Morris managed to recover the A1S. Could get one here and a second. No, he does the damage on the second. Almost a 2K for Amor to pull it back, but he falls short by 4 singular points of health. Banjo spots out Mass. It's all up to Calyx. Only a Deagle in his hands and 4 targets remaining. Needs the first, but won't get it. Banjo closes it out. What a map of overpass, but it had to end, unfortunately. Although very fortunate for Fireflux as they get the 13-10, and it is a 2-0 victory in their favor. Appreciate Eternal Fire's effort there. They try to get aggressive, realizing the pieces they have aren't enough to go for an extended engagement, waiting on the bomb sites, and, well, it doesn't pan out for them. That is unbelievable. Really enjoyed that match, but Eternal Fire fall to 1-1, 2 losses in a row today, 1 in CCT number 7 to be eliminated from the Swiss stage there, and 1 here in CCT number 8 in the opening stage in the close qualifier to fall to 1-1. But Fireflux are a team that look reinvigorated. I talked about that honeymoon period after Shield being added. You guys saw it for yourselves. I mean, he's opping at a level that Dougie was not able to hit for quite some time. And I feel like just having that piece in their arsenal has really bolstered their chances at success. And I'm really, really curious to see what they're going to do in the Swiss stage and if they can continue to compete up against the tougher competition that they're absolutely going to face once they get there. And I think Eternal Fire are a team that should be able to regroup themselves and get into that Swiss stage. If they don't, that'll be a massive disappointment for them. And I think some questions will have to start being asked on their side. But that being said, that does wrap up our coverage here today. We got some fantastic Counter-Strike on the tail end. And, well, if you want more of it, come back tomorrow because we got more CCT, series number 8 coming at you. We hope to see you then. For now, have a great night.